On May 19, 1991, a man died in a hospital in Setagaya Ward, Tokyo. The man's name was Masachika Yamamori. He was 50 years old at the time, born in Kyoto, and his profession was a doctor. He died of a disease that had metastasized throughout his body. The mystery of the case was revealed not by Mr. Yamamori's death itself, but by his wife, Ms. A, who had been with him for 5 years. At the time when the 53-year-old tried to report Mr. Yamamori's death, there was no one by the name of Yamamori or any of his relatives in his registered domicile. There was absolutely no information to be found. Ms. A wondered if there was some mistake and visited the hospital where Mr. Yamamori worked and even the university, but there was no one who corresponded to this Mr. Yamamori. There was no one who matched the person in Ms. A's story. Mr. Yamamori was a cardiologist and usually spent his time at home. He went out drinking from Saturday to Monday, according to Ms. A. He would leave the house on Saturdays to conduct experiments in his lab and return home on Mondays. This pattern suggested that Mr. Yamamori was a doctor. There were a few items left in their home that indicated his profession, including some medical equipment. There were copies of a family register showing he was born in Sakyo Ward, Kyoto City, in the 15th year of Showa, 1940. A certificate of graduation from the University of Tokyo's Faculty of Medicine in the 24th year of Showa, 1949, and 3 photographs. There was an ID card showing he was an employee of Matsui Medical University, 4 medical books and notebooks written in German, and a box containing medical instruments. A briefcase and a 7-page document were also included. A handwritten novel on manuscript paper, which closely resembled the work of Mr. Yamamori, a photo of 2 people believed to be his parents in military uniform, and all of these things, Ms. A will verify their authenticity. First, it is clear that the family register is a forgery, and furthermore, a copy of the graduation certificate from the University of Tokyo Medical School and an ID card with a photo, all of which are forgeries, and this was determined. Who is this man who has been living with me all along? I don't know. As mentioned earlier, Mr. A has been living with this man named Yamamori for about 5 years. The two met in the summer of 1986 during a divorce trial. Mr. A agreed to consult with Mr. Yamamori after they met. Mr. Yamamori shared about his past, saying that he was married and lost his parents at an early age, raised by his grandmother, who also passed away before him. Without relatives, he lives a lonely life, only on weekends. He became close with the next generation while conducting experiments in the laboratory. The two were in Setagaya Ward during the summer of the following year. They moved in together to a Y70,000 rent apartment. A's divorce settlement primarily paid for living expenses, with additional support from Mr. Yamamori's income. Ms. A says she had no idea about this at all. Mr. Yamamori usually spent his time at home reading and such, but as previously mentioned, he would say he was going to the pine forest every Saturday and wouldn't return until Monday, a lifestyle that could be described as quite ordinary. But that time doesn't last long. Mr. Yamamori had suffered from a blood disorder from a young age and had a weak constitution, so the time he spent lying down gradually increased and his meals also became smaller. Ms. A was like that. He would say that he would go to the hospital if he saw his child, but he stubbornly refused to go to the hospital, regardless of the fact that he was a doctor himself, because he didn't have health insurance. This situation continued until he died. Since the fall of the year before last, he had become almost bedridden. He was almost always in bed. He absolutely refused to go to the hospital. In fact, I started to think something was wrong with him from his behavior. But he didn't do anything about it, and he didn't even go to the hospital. Only time passed, and his condition continued like that. It was the beginning of May, 1991. Mr. Yamamori passed away. About 2 weeks ago, Mr. A went shopping and surprisingly fell asleep upon returning home. Mr. Yamamori, who was always there, was gone, and that day was a Saturday, a day he would go to the Pine Lab for research if he was well. Mr. A was worried and drove to the Pine Lab. He wondered if Mr. Yamamori had come. Mr. A asked around for the lab, but the university staff responded with an unexpected answer. They had never heard of a person named Yamamori. Mr. A was shocked but decided to go to his house. Mr. Yamamori was there. "Who are you?" Mr. A asked, questioning him intensely about his identity. But in the end, Mr. Yamamori didn't say anything and seemed to pass away. At the moment of his death, he left behind a mysterious phrase, "I was not alive, but dead." After that, Mr. A spent more than half a year visiting various places and people. He also consulted with the police, but in the end he died. He was never able to find out who Mr. Yamamori really was. Who on earth was Mr. Yamamori? Why did it start from the family register? Did he have any fake documents, and if so, how did he get them? Where did he go on weekends? And other mysteries abound. This may not be the case, but Mr. A responds to the interview in this way. They spent 5 years together, never suspecting that he was deceiving them. They just want to uncover the truth for the sake of those years and nothing more. The Setagaya Ward Office has grasped the situation and has finally allowed this man to be buried as Masachika Yamamori. Actually, this case didn't end there. The matter of Mr. Yamamori was widely reported in the Asahi Shimbun on November 4th, 1991 under the headline, "Who was he?" And half a month later, I was looking at a newspaper article about it. Who appeared, you ask? A woman who had been searching for this man for 20 years. A woman in her 50s at the time. According to her, she and this man had been living together in Kanagawa Prefecture. She was married to an electrician 24 years ago. It was determined through testimonies from related parties that this man was indeed the person she had married. According to her, this man was born in August 1927 according to his family register, and he died at the age of 63. He was born in Kyoto City. He enrolled in the same university medical department as the victim, but apparently did not graduate. The name Masachika Yamamori, which was used by him, has been confirmed to be a pseudonym. However, when he was living with her, he used this name in his work and other aspects of life. He met her while he was working at an electrical equipment company in Tokyo. They got married and registered in November 1967, and their family register was placed in a prefecture in Kanagawa. Why was it determined that this man and Mr. Yamamori are the same person? It's because the same photo identified as her husband was left in her possession. According to her, the man established an electrical equipment related company in 1972. But no. The business didn't go well, and one day he went out and never came back, and his whereabouts after that are unknown. She didn't divorce or declare him missing, but continued to search for her husband on her own. From such a situation, the man who eventually became known as Yamamori was returned to her, but it's unclear what his real name was. As for the last 5 years of his life, only she knows, but the previous 15 years remain a blank. Why did he leave her in the first place, and why? Did he have his family register and other identification, and was he pretending to be her husband? Did he abandon his past and start a new life, or was there another reason? Who was her husband anyway? The shock of learning from the newspaper that her husband had lived and died as another person is immeasurable. The story is a bit off track, but a certain country's worker has been from the 1960s. They obtained the family registers of real Japanese people in various parts of Japan, live as real Japanese people, and use the obtained family registers to obtain passports issued by the Japanese government. In short, it is a crime to use the family register of a real person and arouse suspicion in someone. It can be said that it is one of the superior means for execution. Why can't we find missing persons? And part of the answer may be that such incidents are involved. However, regarding Mr. Yamamori, he had forged a family register, which the spy was carrying at the time. Getting a real Japanese family register is different, so I think the line that he is a spy is thin. But from Mr. B's story, I guess he wanted to abandon his past and live a new life. But why though? However, why he lied about going to Hamamatsu Medical University for experiments under the name of Masachika Yamamori, what he was doing and how he spent his weekends, and other mysteries remain unsolved. In fact, there is still debate over this system where Japanese citizens prove their identity to others, and in order to prove their identity to the state, they submit birth, marriage, divorce, and death notifications at various stages of their lives, and record this information in their family register. While it can be said that the family register is a convenient system that verifies a person's life and their relationships, it is also a fact that there are parts that cannot be proven by it alone. I am a YouTuber on one hand and work at a certain company on the other. I am also an ordinary salaryman. Finally, I have a question for everyone. Who are you? Thank you for watching until the end. See you again.